Welcome or welcome back to the channel. My name is Sarah. This is my Friday reads for the 7th. Do you see my letterboard? It's the best $5 I've ever spent in a craft store. I love it. Isn't it cute? Anyway, this is Friday reads. I'm going to talk about the things that I've read since last Friday and just a few little update things. I don't really have much to talk about. I also have, you can't really see it, my daughter painted me this in her art class today, and I didn't know that I could love someone so much. But that's just constant day to day with kids, I guess. Okay, so what I have read in the past week, we're gonna get the stinky poopy pants one out of the way first, and that is Wicked Serve by Grace Riley. There is nothing like wrong with this book, and if you like it, I'm very happy for you, but this was totally not for me in any way, shape, or form. I had an e-arc from NetGalley. I had requested it back when I was trying to get back into my romance era as opposed to just dealing with it, and I was like, I'll try this one. It's not for me. I read 2 chapters and 3 chapters and was like, oh no, and then it was just 400 more pages of oh no. Ooh. Yeah, this is about a girl who, her name is Izzy, and she's a volleyball player. She's from a very wealthy family, and in case you forget, the author reminds you like every chance she gets. She comes from a very wealthy family, and her volleyball coach does not really believe that she's in the sport because she loves the sport. She believes she's in the sport just because she wants to look good, you know? The volleyball coach's son, Nikolai, is her romantic interest. He also happens to be her brother's greatest rival, and he is a hockey player, so this is a volleyball hockey romance. Nikolai's story was interesting. He had a lot going on with his grandfather and like taking over the business. He didn't want to. He wants to play hockey professionally. No one thinks he's serious, and he has a scar. Oh my god. Anyway, Nick was fine. Nikolai was fine. I could not stand Izzy. I couldn't stand her at all. And so this just was not fun for me. Also, girl, there's so much smut in this book. I was just skimming through a lot of it. On top of the fact that these guys read like they were younger than 18, it made it real icky and weird. So no. 2 stars because it wasn't like offensive. It was just not a fun read and super cringy. We heard a lot about Target and Trader Joe's, even within the first chapter, just in this economy? No, thank you. But the rest of what I read, I actually really liked this week. So I did finish These Godly Lies, the duology with Pits and Poison by R. Rada. I read Peaches and Honey last month and really loved that. I gave that one a 5-star. I gave this one 4-star. The only reason I docked a star off is because I liked the ambiguity of these immortal beings a lot more before she started to unnecessarily lean into Christian mythos for their reasoning and who they are. It felt unnecessary. There was like vague hints that they could be anyone from any mythos, and when she started to lean hard into the Christianity side of it, I was like, that's really don't need that. It didn't add anything to the story. But otherwise, I really, really liked this. It's a little more action and not travel, but a little more action focused as our main characters spend most of the time on the run. This series is about Anna, who she has vitiglio, and when she is very young, that is seen as, oh, she's got leprosy, and she's cast out, she's beaten, she's treated as a witch, and she's living on her own, barely surviving in the forest, when a young woman who is running from the sheriff and the other men in the village stumbles into the woods. Anna takes her in, even though she has very little food. She gives it to this woman, and in return, the woman gives her a peach and says, you have a true heart, there's true kindness in you, and it should be repaid. That peach gives Anna immortality. Now, that woman turns out to be someone named Kieran, and Kieran visits her frequently throughout the years, and she becomes entangled and wound up with other immortals, beings who simply can't die, and it is her story over hundreds of years. Her and Kieran, got a very slow burn romance in it, but it is mainly Anna's story as she goes through different calamities and catastrophes throughout mankind, as she sees the worst and best of mankind. There is a spat where she is a mother to a son, and there is a lot about mothering and finding joy in what you have in the moment. It was just, I loved the first book, and I did really like this one. It wasn't quite as good for me, but I do really recommend this. Both of them are very short. Peaches and Honey is the same length as this one. So if you want like a short duology, I really liked it. I also really liked the writing style. It was short segments that were very punchy. Like, for example, this chapter here, we start here and there is, well, now I can't turn the page. There's a break here. So if you like shorter sections to a book to make it read faster, these books are really great for it. I hadn't actually seen the physical edition. My husband bought me this as a surprise. It's got bees and honeycomb. I love that. It's so good. I really enjoyed that. I do really recommend that duology. This one is a bit more also heavy on the romance than the first one. So there's also that. That may be part of why I took some off. The next thing I read, these two I both read as e-arcs, but I did buy physical copies for myself. The first one is Green Teeth by Molly O'Neill, and this is so good. So in all honesty, the first couple chapters of this, I liked the writing style, but I wasn't entirely sure it was going to get pulled off. It's very T. Kingfisher in tone and style, so if you like T. Kingfisher's writing, this would probably be a great pickup. In fact, T. Kingfisher's blurb is on the bottom there. This is about Jenny Greenteeth, and Jenny Greenteeth is a Jenny Greenteeth. That's just also her name, as all Jennies have that name, and she lives in a small lake and tends to it, keeps it clean and nice and tidy. She's a type of water naiad or spirit or fae, whatever you want to call her. She considers herself a low fae in the courts of the fae. But she lives in this pond, or lake, we'll say a lake, and she just tends to it, takes care of it, till one day a witch is thrown into her lake. This is right around the time of the witch trials. The witch is bound with irons, and Jenny says, "Oh, strange." And the witch begins to die because she's bound. So because Jenny doesn't want her lake to get dirty with a witch's body, she cuts her loose and takes her to her cave and tends to her and helps her back to health with the intent of letting her go to leave the village. Temperance is our witch, and Temperance doesn't really want to leave the village. She has 2 small children and a husband who she loves, and she wants to get back to them. So they devise a plan. They are going to push the pastor out that threw her into the lake and return to the village. And Temperance says, "I can cast a memory spell on the village that they will," because she is actually a witch. "I'll cast a memory spell on the village. They won't remember I'm there." When they attempt to do this, they find out that there is more to this preacher than they thought, and they go on a very big quest to find a way to push the preacher out and defeat him, because he's not actually human. They take a friend, one of Jenny Greenteeth's friends. He is a hobgoblin named Brackus Marsh. He's delightful. And along their journey, they get a dog companion. They go to the courts of the High Fae, and the High Fae Queen sends one of her hounds with them. And it is their quest to complete 3 challenges set by the king, and to get an item they need to push back this being. Oh, it was good. I really enjoyed it. It's short. It feels a bit longer than it is. It's a journey book. They're doing quests, and there is a fantastic twist at the very end of this that explains why they have to do everything they're doing and why this person is at their village. And it's just, oh, it was really well done. I didn't see the twist coming. I should have, but I didn't. And I really liked it. I think I ended up giving this a 4. I do recommend it if you want like a whimsical quest style fantasy. It's not perfect by any means, but it is very enjoyable and relatively short in all things considered. And I will definitely continue to pick up Molly O'Neill. I think this was her debut, and I will pick up whatever she writes next because I really liked this. And the last thing that I finished it today, absolutely loved it, was Wooing the Witch Queen. This is book 1 in The Queen's Villainy by Stephanie Burgess. Now, this, I can't really explain to you why I loved it so much, but it scratched a part of my brain that it felt very good. This is the story of Felix. He is the Archduke of his kingdom, and he is being controlled by his father-in-law, this evil count. And after his wife's death, he kind of has every intention in exiting this plane of existence, a fact of which is egged. He is being supported in this by his father-in-law, who wants to take over when he, offs himself. But then in the first chapter, he's like, "No, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. So I want to, live my life." And he escapes. And when he does, he escapes to the evil witch queen's tower in hopes that she'll grant him sanctuary. When he gets there, though, he finds out she really wants to kill the Archduke. So he pretends to be a man named Fabian, however you want to say it, and he is an evil sorcerer, and he is there to answer her request for a librarian, for her big, sorceress library. So he begins this sort of uncomfortable and duplicitous sort of stay in her tower, he begins to meet and love the assortment of beings in her tower, as she is a big supporter of non-humans. One of the political things that's happening in the background of this is that there is an emperor who is using this church that the church doesn't fully actually in its tenets support what he is saying, but he is using the power of the church to say all magical people need to be under the grip of the government. We cannot have wild magic, even though it's technically even in the scriptures of the world that the goddess herself gave the worldwide magic. He's going against it and he's using it for evil. And part of that is non-humans are not human. They are animals. They are not, good beings, when in fact they are. So Felix is meeting, the troll housekeeper, Miss Haglitz, I think is how you might say her name. I love her. I like goals right there. I want to be that person when I am old. Was she a troll? No, she was a troll. And then the orc, I think he was an orc or an ogre. I cannot remember at this point. I think he was an ogre. He was, my brain is like losing the script right now. What is wrong with me? He is Saskia's right-hand man, her minister. And then Queen Saskia herself has a lot of dark magic. She has a lot of trauma and troubles of her own. Her uncle tried to seize control of her kingdom from her after murdering her family, and she took that back, but she still has to deal with the fact that he's out there preaching and talking bad about her, but she is trying to also rule the kingdom and fight back the emperor. There's a lot going on. It's a lot going on. All you really need to know, it's cozy. You wouldn't think that from everything I just said. This is a cozy fantasy romance. This scratched a place in my brain that Legends and Lattes scratched with their whole introduction of the idea of coffee and scones and all this stuff into that world. There is a similar thing going on here with like stationery and stuff, but it doesn't do it heavy-handedly. It's very cunningly slipped in. Like it's got those cozy vibes, but it manages to fit them in perfectly so that they make sense. The characters felt very well realized and rich. I liked their trauma and the way they worked through it and how it didn't take over the personality of the characters. They were their own characters and they grew and you saw them develop. Fantastic. There was like one little kind of predictable twist with an earring that Felix wears, but besides that, I really loved it. Also, I would like to point out this cover artist, his name is Mike Pape. He is very familiar to me and I couldn't figure out why. Well, I got home and I realized that the new Kimberly Lemming books, he does these covers. He did these and the time I got drunk and saved a werewolf or yeeted a love potion at a werewolf, all of those, these are the same guy, Mike Pape. And I realized the reason he's so familiar to me is that he does a lot of D&D artwork. He does a lot of artwork in the revised stuff. He recently did a lot of stuff in Critical Role and Beetle and Grimm. I think that's what they're called. A few of like the side, like they're not part of Wizards of the Coast, but they work with the D&D side of Wizards of the Coast, and they do little expansions and stuff. He does artwork for them, so like this artist is fantastic. I knew I recognized him, I just couldn't figure out why. He also does Magic the Gathering cards. If you have played or seen a lot of Magic, he is one of those artists. But yes, loved this, highly recommend. It is out, it does have sprayed edges if you are a sprayed edges kind of person, but I really enjoyed this. Stephanie Burgess is a kind of well-known fantasy, like indie fantasy author. She wrote the Scales and Sensibility books, which I've seen bounced around. In fact, yeah, I've got one up there. So I am 100% continuing the series. I loved it. I really recommend it. If you like fantasy romance, if you like cozy things, this is great. It wasn't too much or too cringy. It worked perfectly for me. There's also a flock of ravens, and I love anything like that. The last little things I have, I did get one book I wanted to talk about. I got the Radiant King. I technically do have the arc of this, but this is David Dalglish's new book, and I love this cover. Oh my god, I love this cover so much. This is by Magali, I know I'm saying this wrong, Magali Villeneuve. I will see if I can link the artist website down below. I will do the same for Mike Pape if you're interested. I do really love looking at the artists who do these. I adore this. Can't wait to pick this up. What I am reading next, I am going to read The River Has Roots tonight. That is my plan, so I can get that reviewed and turned in. And I am going to get my next physical book is going to be the new Kimberly Lemming. That time I got abducted by aliens. Or I'm sorry, I got abducted by aliens and now I'm trapped in a rom-com. There's a pink T-Rex. There's a pink T-Rex here. I love dinosaurs. If you've seen the channel, you know that. So I'm very excited for this. I love dinosaurs. I also finished my diamond painting. Oh, isn't that cool? I know it seems a little silly, but this is been my project. I always have a project going, whether it's a Lego or a bookshelf little thing. It's been the diamond painting for a couple weeks because I only work on it a little bit at a time. I am now finished. I have no idea what my next project is going to be. I might set my table up and do another big jigsaw puzzle. I have like 3 new ones from Christmas that I need to do. We'll see. We'll see what I decide to do. But that is the plan so far. I will definitely get back to you guys next Friday. Let me real quick go through. I did get 3 new arcs as well. I have been trying very, very hard to get through some NetGalley arcs, which is why I read 3 in a week. I'm trying really hard. So today I got the approval for Mercy Makers. This is by, let's see, Tessa Gratton? Yes, Tessa Gratton. I got the approval for this one today. I'm very excited about. I got the approval for A Fellowship of Bakers and Magic. Now, I did try this book and DNF'd it a couple of weeks ago, but I will pick it back up and actually finish it now because I have the NetGalley for it. And then I've got 1 more. Where did it go? No, 2 more. I'm sorry. 3 more? I got more than I thought. Yikes. I have a problem where as soon as I submit a review, an approval comes in, which, I mean, it's a good problem to have, but it just makes for a lot of work. The Last Vigilant by Mark A. Latham. I adore this cover. It gives me classic fantasy vibes. I cannot wait to try it. I have, oh my god, Everybody Wants to Rule the World Except for Me by Django Wexler, which is the sequel to How to Become a Dark Lord and Die Trying, which was one of my favorite books last year, and I stand by the fact that it is one of my favorite books I've read in a long time. And I got the approval for Hemlock and Silver from T. Kingfisher, which I do want to check. I do not know if this is a new T. Kingfisher or if this is a traditional publishing of one of her old indies. If someone knows, please tell me down below. I think it's a reprint, not a reprint, but a traditional publishing of one of her indies. If it is, it's possible I've already read this, but I'm still going to read it again because it's T. Kingfisher. It's my favorite author. So that those came in, I will be reading those in the future. Some of those aren't due to come out for several months, but they're on your radar now. They're definitely on my radar, and I'll report back with more when I've read them. But that is it for those Friday reads. I'm going to try and get this edited down to just under 20 minutes for y'all. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know what you read this week. Are you interested in anything I talked about? And do you have any suggestions for me on what I should read based on what I talked about? But again, thanks for watching, y'all, and I will talk to you again next week. Bye.